What's up, you sexy people? Today we're going to be taking a look at the Zhongli banner. Many of you have already made up your decision if you're going to try and go for him if you have a bunch of pulls saved up. Specifically, if you're free to play, you probably already know if you're going to pull on him or not, but let me see if I can persuade you to go one way or the other. As you can see, Zhongli is an incredibly powerful unit, just like many other 5 stars in the game, but he is an Archon and he certainly feels like he has the power of an Archon. Zhongli has abilities unlike any other character in the game, well except for Shield, because I guess Shield is something that a lot of characters have, but his shield is special, and by special I mean really, really thick. Either way though, let's get talking about what's on the banner and then whether or not it's worth pulling for. We are now looking at the Zhongli banner, and on it you can see Diona, Noelle, and Yanfei, the newest character. Out of these 3 characters, 2 of them are extremely solid support and healers, and one of them has shield uptime if you get their Constellation, but good luck with that. So taking a look at Diona now, Diona provides a ton of value to every single team that she's in because she provides healing, shield, and cryo. And cryo is so strong right now. If you use double cryo, you get the cryo resonance, which is probably my second favorite resonance in the game. Not to mention her shields are pretty strong and they scale with her healing, similarly to Noelle. So both of these 2 are very strong healers and shielders. Noelle allows you to get geo resonance, which is my personal favorite thing. Being able to get that bonus shield and that bonus damage off of just being shielded is super valuable in any composition. Noelle's shield is also just incredibly strong. I personally haven't played a ton of Diona, so I don't know where Diona stacks up to Noelle in terms of shield strength, but I do know that Noelle gets a lot of value out of building defense in terms of her offensive capability, her healing capability, and her shield capacity. Looking at Yanfei, the community hasn't really come to a consensus yet on whether or not Yanfei is good. There's always a period at the start of every single banner where every single character that is on the banner is good. Every new character has been called good, and to some extent there's always truth in that. I think every character in the game is viable, but we do have to kind of look at their viability compared to other units in the game. Of course, if you want to play Yanfei, that's great. I actually think that Yanfei is a pretty strong character. I don't necessarily think she stacks up to Ningguang in terms of damage unless you are using a reaction composition. I think she looks fun to play. I probably won't level her just because she doesn't fit into my compositions, but I look forward to seeing more people talk about Yanfei. It does feel like she has a place in some compositions as well, and she is able to do decent damage if you build her correctly. Now look at this guy though. Look at Geodad. You do not want to piss this guy off. I'm telling you, this is probably the most menacing looking banner I've seen. I know someone's gonna say Xiao looks scarier. No, this guy has a meteor in his hand, bro. When we're comparing 5-star banners that have already happened, I think that Zhongli is probably one of the most valuable ones that has occurred yet. All of these wonderful DPS banners like Hu Tao and Xiao have been really great to us, and we've got to play some really fun characters. In terms of overall kit value, I think Zhongli takes the cake unless you're comparing him to Venti. And even then, the 2 of them aren't really comparable because they do such different things. But with him being an Archon, he has access to tools that no other character in the game has, and that is really special. So let me kind of show you. Earlier in the video, you saw a little bit of me doing Abyss, and this is with a completely unfinished Zhongli. Like, we're nowhere even close to being done. The closest thing we have to being done is Deathmatch. Right now, I'm running 2 Archaic Petra and 2 Gladiator on Zhongli. It's not the best build, and it's not even close to the best build. This is a random set that I put together using artifacts that I already had, just so I could play him right away, get a feel for him. But he will only get stronger than when I showed you in Abyss. Anyways, one of the best things about Zhongli is that he's incredibly easy to build. And by easy to build, I mean one of your artifact pieces will basically be free because HP is such a common stat drop. While attack is pretty valuable and can give you lots of damage, some of Zhongli's damage actually scales off of HP, and his shield also scales off of HP, so ultimately I think it's better to run an HP Sands. By running an HP Sands with him, you're getting a lot of utility, and it's super easy to go and just find one of them. And then when you're rolling bad substats and you go, dang it, I got plus 20% HP, like this geo damage goblet. Bam, Zhongli artifact. It's that simple. And then if you don't have crit damage, you don't have crit rate, no problem. Put HP in the last slot. See how long it takes for your shield to break. I can promise you it's going to take a long time. But talking more about Zhongli's value and how he's a completely unique character, we can go look at his pillar here. His E skill creates a pillar, and if you hold it, he creates a shield for himself. This shield is the strongest shield in the game, and it's not even close. There's a lot of reasons for this. One of them is actually his Ascension passive that fortifies his shield every time it takes damage, but not to mention off the bat, his shield is already super strong. So it scales off of his HP, as we said earlier, and the shield lasts up to 20 seconds, which is longer than the hold cooldown, you'll notice. So in theory, you could easily keep 100% uptime on his shield, which is such a great utility. But outside of that, his pillar is constantly taking geo damage, and if you have other geo characters in your party, it's going to resonate with that and do extra geo damage and generate more particles. So ultimately, it is a super unique skill. And that's not even talking about my favorite thing about his kit, which is the ability to literally drop meteors from from the sky. This is a level 4 talent, and it has 542% skill damage. 542% at level 4, and then going up to level 5, 591. That is a 49% damage increase for those resources on screen, those minimal resources. And obviously the scaling has to be pretty high on him because he doesn't have reaction damage, which makes sense. But I've seen people hit 100Ks like this, like they were just walking their dog. Like, it is the most casual thing that I've seen people do, and it is nuts. And being able to just drop a meteor like that on cooldown that does that much damage and petrifies, it's insane. And it is definitely one of my favorite utilities. The petrification is really cool. It doesn't really do that much in comparison to Venti in terms of CC, but one of its best values is that it stops attacks. Being able to stop attacks or freeze those Geo Bishops that are bouncing all over the map that you can't hit one time because they're flying from wall to wall like they're Sonic the Hedgehog, being able to stop them immediately is so helpful. And that's just his talent value. If we're looking at Constellations, he gets a ton more. His Constellation 1, a lot of people think it's not that great. I am personally a huge fan of his Constellation 1. I love his Constellation 1 because it gives you so much more energy recharge. Brax, you don't have Constellation 1. How do you know? Well, I played on other people's accounts. I had to experiment with this character before I went ahead and got the character, mostly because I wanted to know what I'd be talking about in my guide.
Leaks.
I've literally been stalling so hard with all these videos just because I need to get a good tenacity set. Please, MiHoYo, 1300 resin and not one piece. But anyways, this constellation can be circumvented with another Geo character. So it's not completely necessary. It just makes it a little bit easier to run Zhongli solo and maybe like a reaction comp. It is a little awkward with his pillars proccing Geo sometimes. It's a really weak application, but it can happen every so often. But yeah, I like that constellation. A lot of people don't. Constellation 2 is the single best co-op ability in the game. Being able to press Q and instantly Jade Shield the rest of your party is nuts. If you play a ton of co-op, this is probably your favorite constellation. I'm already calling it. It enhances your support capabilities by a ton, and it should also increase your desire to drop meteors as often as possible. Constellation 4 is basically just an AoE increase and a duration increase. I don't think this one's super necessary. I don't think it's super game changing, but it's definitely a nice boost in damage if you're in Spiral Abyss and all the enemies are away from you for some reason. That's pretty nice. But I think Constellation 4, if we're not counting 3 and 5, might be the more useless one. I know people are going to get pissed and say Constellation 1 is the worst. I'm just saying my opinion. And then Constellation 6 turns Zhongli into a healer. This works with basically every character except for Hu Tao. You don't want this on Hu Tao, but if you're not using Hu Tao, this is a great constellation. Not that you should really even need it though, because your shield's just never gonna die. But yeah, if you play a ton of co-op, the only thing I can recommend for you if you're pulling for Zhongli, if you have C1 already, I think it's worth getting C2 if you play a ton of co-op. If you don't play a ton of co-op, I wouldn't really go for it. I would just stick with C0 or C1. The thing is, Zhongli doesn't need constellations to be good, they just enhance them a little bit. But Zhongli is already a massive, insanely good unit by himself. So, final verdict. Most of you have already probably come to a conclusion, or you've already figured out what I'm gonna say based off of the video or previous knowledge of the character. Maybe you're just here to hang out, which is cool. Hanging out. We know Eula is a new release, and typically speaking, the newer releases have been getting slightly better and better. MiHoYo's done a pretty good job of keeping the last few characters in the same general ballpark of damage, but generally there is a trend going upwards in power. From that, we can assume that Eula will probably be strong. I'm not going to say we know for sure because genuinely we don't. They could change her numbers at any time because she's not released yet. But she looks like a cool unit. The one thing I do have to say is that Zhongli is a completely unique tool. There has not been a single character introduced into the game that can do all the things that he can do because no one else has a meteor that petrifies people. But the closest you're going to get to his shield is probably Noelle because she's Geo and she can buff up her shield a ton. But then Noelle has shield uptime problems unless you have her Ascension passive and just completely perfectly weave it. Don't get me wrong, I'm a complete Noelle fan. I love Noelle. I think she's a great character. But she's not Zhongli. Zhongli's shield is stronger for less resources and it's up more of the time. Not to mention with him being kind of easy to build if you've always been short on resin or if you have just a ton of good HP artifacts, you could already have some stuff out of the way. And honestly, in terms of fun value, I think I've had the most fun with Zhongli that I have of any character that's released in the past 3 patches. So anyways, I really like Zhongli. And if I were going to choose between Eula and Zhongli, I would pull for Zhongli. If I only could pick one. Now, counting the 4-star value, y'all have seen Noelle so many times, and if you already have her C6 and you're free to play, that is a little bit risky for you if you don't want to potentially get more constellations. And then we also are probably probably getting a Diona with the next event. And if you're getting a Diona with the next event, then pulling an extra Diona may not be the best thing for you. Yanfei looks pretty cool though, and I'm willing to bet that if you haven't rolled on this banner, you don't have her, because you literally can't. But she'd be a cool addition to your roster. I think specifically because Yanfei is on this banner and she's new, that's my rationale for pulling on it. Even if I had C6 Diona and Noelle, which I did, I would still pull on the banner because Yanfei is on it, and because Zhongli is a character that is completely indispensable. I would never call a character a must pull, but he's probably the closest I would say to it other than Venti, and they're close to must pulls for their own reason. You don't need Zhongli. He's not the end all be all. He's not the greatest character in the game, but he sure as hell does feel good to play, and he sure as hell provides a ton of value. So I think this banner is 100% a pull. Let me know if you pulled for Zhongli. Let me know if you get him. Let me know if I changed your mind. Go ahead and comment down below. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Only about 8% of you are subscribed, and I have a ton of viewers, so I'd really like to get those numbers up and see most of you coming back, because every time one of you leaves a comment on my videos, it makes me happy. Catch you later, folks. Good luck rolling.